Now, I was going to say this is our first Pacific Conference Family Ministry Marriage and Enrichment event, but I'm not sure what has happened before it came, so I'm going to put it differently. I'm going to say, since I've been here, this is our first Chesapeake Conference Marriage and Enrichment event, and I'm really excited about it. I think it's setting a model for us to continue to use in the next few years, to have one-day events that will be a blessing for our marriages, for our families, and I look forward to having events like this more often. Someone said to me, so how many times a year are you going to do this? And I thought, well, I was excited because we're doing one this year. So maybe we need to do a couple a year, or maybe 3, I don't know. We'll see how the Lord leads us. But we want to enrich and bless the families within our conference and around our conference. Because in reality, this is open to anyone. So for folks that might have come from Allegheny, from Potomac, or just visitors of our churches, everybody, I want you to feel welcome, and I hope that you're blessed through this program this morning. We're also blessed because we have one of the top-notch couples in this area leading this morning. Dr. Claudio and Pam Consuegra have been a blessing to the North American division. They are the family ministry leaders for North America, and single ministries, and women's ministries, and men, not women, I'm sorry, not women, men ministries leaders, and probably a couple of other things that you do. And they're going to be talking about the many hats they wear, the many things they do through the morning. They've published several books, which I'm using and sharing with people at the conference. A lot of blessings that they bring through their ministry and their dedication. I always wonder how they get it done. All they do, it's just amazing. It seems like they never sleep because of all the things they're involved with that they're doing. They travel all over the world doing this, and we're so excited that for our first event, we have them being the ones leading out. So, not holding this any further, I want to invite you to come forward. Now the time is yours, and thank you so much.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Rojas, for that kind introduction. I tell you how I have some more time to do what I do, because I don't have to fix my hair anymore. There's plenty of time to do other things. Well, we're delighted to be back in what was our home conference. You know, Pam was a principal at Eastern Shore Junior Academy, and I pastored the Lower Church, so we know this area very well. It was our home conference for 3.5 years, and we're delighted that we can be back and see some friends, some folks that we have known before, and also some colleagues from our office right now, so we're also glad. It makes me a little nervous when our colleagues are here, because I don't know, we are so close together, but you know, see what Sherry might be taking pictures to share with our administration. So we're glad that you're here. We're just going to give you a couple of brief instructions. We have 4 sessions today. Normally we have 5 sessions over the weekend. We're only going to have 4 sessions today. And those of you who are type A will look at the book and say, oh man, we're not going to be able to complete everything in that workbook. And you're right. Because this is really like 8 sessions worth. What we have had to do, we usually have to print a booklet for every one of the retreats or meetings that we had, and it just got to be too much. So we said we're going to print one, and then we're just going to cover some of those areas. So for instance, in this first area, you see that little heart at the bottom of the screen. That means the page number that we are looking at, or at least that we will begin with. So if you're a type A person, don't be flustered because we're not completing every single thing. If you're interested in every word for every space, we will make that available to Dr. Rojas, and then he can give it to you, or you can contact him and ask him. That way you can write every word, and then you can finally go to sleep. We would like to give you an opportunity to ask questions. However, we would like you to do it by writing down the question. Now, Dr. Rojas is going to give you some pieces of paper sometime this morning, And if you have a question, feel free to write it. We learned a number of years ago not to ask questions from the floor because some people would say certain things that would embarrass their spouse. And we want it to be a safe place. You know, some people would say something like, I have a question, what if your wife, and then they would say something about the wife. Well, you know they're not talking about somebody else's wife. And so then the wife begins to crawl under the table, or they would say, I have a friend, but everybody knows who the friend is. So we just decided we're not going to take any questions so that it's safe for everyone. At the same time, I think it's important to answer questions, and so therefore, if you have a question, just write it down. We'll let you know where to put the question, and then as we can, we will answer that through the day. Please give us enough information, but don't write an entire epistle, because that's what we only give you one piece of paper. If we give you a notebook, you could probably write a novel, and you just don't have the time to read that. But if you have a present question, we will try to answer them as much as we can. Before we begin, we'd like to introduce you to our family. Some of you were asking about our kids because they went to school with your kids. So we have two daughters. This is our older daughter. Her name is Diana Cristina. And she's an English teacher, although right now she's unemployed because she married this guy. And they moved to Southern Maryland. And by moving there, she wasn't teaching anymore. She was teaching at Tacoma Academy in Tacoma Park. And so now she's not teaching there anymore. And she's also a photographer and a graphic designer. So she's doing some things on her own while she gets a permanent job. So she married this guy, Andrew, who was a Navy aircraft mechanic, but left the Navy, but still works on those planes as a civilian contractor. And they just bought a house about a month ago in Waldorf, Maryland. And so that's where they live with their two children. This is Luna, this is Bugsy, and they treat them better than children, but I can assure them they are not my grandchildren.
And our other daughter is one that several of you here know because she went to school with your children at Eastern Shore Academy, and her name is Hadassah. And you will remember, for those of you who knew Hadassah, you know that from the time she was a toddler, she has had in her heart that she wanted to be a doctor. You know, I remember as a very small child, I was cleaning the house one day, and I saw a piece of paper taped to the screen of our television. At that time, we had a television set, and Hadassah had put a piece of paper there, and it said, "Note to Hadassah, anytime you are tempted to turn on this television set, just remember, it takes you one step further from fulfilling your dream and being a surgeon like Dr. Ben Carson." And she had written that note to self. Well, today Hadassah is a surgeon. She's a surgeon working in the hospital in York, Pennsylvania, and she specializes in non-invasive surgery, robotic surgery and laser surgery. So we're very proud that from a tiny child, God put in her heart to be a surgeon, and that's what she is today. And that is her husband, Gregory. And Gregory works as a speech language audiologist there in Pennsylvania too. And I was very happy when Gregory joined our family because I said, I finally have a child who looks like me with Gregory, because our other two daughters look like their father. My husband is Colombian. We grew up in the country of Colombia, South America. So both of our girls look more Hispanic like their father.
And Pam and I went to school at CUC, now Washington Adams University. That's where we met and married. We married our senior year, so we've been at it for 36 years. 36 years, yes, thank you. And it's like a friend of mine said, those 36 years have been like 5 minutes. Underwater. No, it's been good. It's been very good. 36 years married, 3 years dating, so we've been together longer than we were ever apart. Well, we want to share with you some very basic principles. So let's begin, because we have very limited time. So if you are already, your booklet is already open to page 1, we'll begin with some basic concepts. There are two, in general terms, two kinds of law. We're not going to talk from the biblical point of view, the Greek words and the Hebrew words, but in general terms today, we have two types of love. Romantic love, and here's the definition for that: feeling incredible attraction for the other person. That's what drew us to the other person, and the longer we spent time with them, the more we felt that attraction for them. It is unmistakable, and it can be sustained indefinitely. It can be. It doesn't happen like that all the time, and in fact, many couples who rely on romantic love find out that about 10 months, a year and a half after the wedding, the romantic feelings are not there anymore, and then they rush to court to get a divorce so that they can find somebody that will make them feel that way again. If you depend on your relationship only on romantic love, you may be disappointed. Romantic love is wonderful, but it's not the reason to remain together. It's an additional gift to your relationship. Here's an example of that, and I don't know if you can read it, so I'm going to read it to you. It's a letter from a young boy to a young girl. He says to her, "Dear Ashley, would you please be my girlfriend? I like you a lot." And then he gives her 3 choices: yes, no, or maybe. So he writes, "Please put yes, no, or maybe." On the same note, she responded to him, "I'm sorry, I already have a boyfriend. I don't like him. But when we break up, you're my next choice. P.S. That will probably be in a month or 2. You see, if you depend only on those romantic feelings, well, when they go away, then you have to go searching for the next one who makes you feel that way. On the other hand, we have
caring love. The problem is when so many young couples stand at the altar today, and when they say the words, "I do," they really do not understand what marriage is all about. Because too many young couples are basing that marriage on romantic love. And instead, we need to be talking to our young people about caring love. And here's the definition: it represents a decision. That's the difference. 2 important words. Romantic love represented a what? What's the word? Or a feeling. I'm basing my love on feelings? Well, if you chart your feelings, what happens? You will notice they go up and they go down, don't they? But instead, here we see it really represents a decision. That as I'm standing there on our wedding day, I am making a decision to love you come what may. Recognizing the fact that we will have ups and we will have downs. We will have good days, we will have bad days. We will have smiles, we will have tears. But I am making a decision today that come what may, I'm going to love you till death do us part. That's what we call a covenant relationship. A relationship that not only involves the 2 of us, but involves Jesus Christ. That I am making a covenant relationship, a decision to love you come what may.
Gordon Harley, a Christian psychologist in the Twin Cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul, working with so many couples over 40 years, has come to the conclusion that there are 2 sort of personalities battling inside of us. One he calls the giver. It's kind of like those old commercials where someone is trying to make a decision and they have a little red devil saying, yeah, go ahead and do it. And the little white angel says, no, don't do it. Well, we have that kind of a battle inside of us sometimes. Well, the giver, the little white angel, is the side of our personality that says, do whatever you can to make the other person happy and avoid anything that makes the other person unhappy, even if it makes you unhappy. Do everything you can to make the other person happy, which is what happened usually anyways. When we were dating, we wanted to do everything that would make the other person happy because we wanted to one day say yes when we asked him to marry us. And so sometimes we sacrifice ourselves. Sometimes we wanted to go for pizza, but they wanted to go for Taco Bell or whatever it was. And we would say, oh, okay, we'll go with you because I want you to be happy. So it's that side of our personality that wants to make the other person happy.
But you know what? After we've been married a while, after the honeymoon is over, I'm tired of giving so much. I'm tired of always doing what you want to do. Have you heard these words? Don't I have a right to be happy? How many times have we heard those words? I'm tired of giving. I'm tired of all the sacrificing. Now it's my turn. So now, all of a sudden, instead of giving and nurturing, we go into the taker mode. We start taking. I'm going to do whatever I can now to make me happy. I'm going to avoid anything that makes me unhappy, even if it makes you unhappy. You know, it's my turn now. You know, it's all about me.
So based on those two personalities, Hartley says that there are three states of mind in marriage. The first one is what he calls intimacy, and it's a state of mind dominated by your giver who encourages you to give unconditionally. Again, it's because it's that state when we are very much in love, when we're romantic, love praise, and so again we continue to do whatever the other person wants because we just simply want to make it happen. Hey, where would you like to go? We go, it doesn't matter, you decide. No, you decide. No, you decide. And you never go out to eat anywhere because you can't make a decision because I will be selfish on your part. So it's a state of mind dominated by your giver who encourages you to give unconditionally. At this stage, each person is meeting the other person's needs, and each is also avoiding causing unhappiness to the other. That's the state of marriage we would call intimacy. Some people think that intimacy is only having sex. Intimacy is the state where sex is one of the parts of a good relationship. But it should be intimacy in our communication, intimacy spiritually, intimacy in every area, because we're meeting each other's needs. We're trying to make each other happy, even if it doesn't always make me as happy as I would like to be. That's intimacy.
I want to ask you a question. Is conflict bad?
No.
Is conflict bad? No, because the reality is, if two people live in the same house together, sooner or later you're going to have conflict. You know, I hate to bust that myth for you, but actually we need to be telling these young couples that are about to get married, you know what, folks? You're going to have conflict. And you're going to have disagreements. Because God made you both as individuals. God made me with different likes and dislikes than my husband. So if we live in the same house together, there's going to come a time when we're going to have conflict. Here's where the problem comes in. Unresolved conflict. When we fight about the same thing today that we fought about yesterday, and we never find a solution. In fact, let's just save ourselves the time. So let me record today's argument, and then as soon as my husband comes in the door tomorrow, let's just save the time. Let me just hit the play button and listen to it. Because it's going to be the same argument, and it's going to end up the same way with no resolution, with us being mad at each other. That's when conflict becomes a problem. Over and over again, and there's no solution. So the state of mind dominated by your taker, who encourages you to take unconditionally. In this way, conflict is bad. So it's not that conflict is bad, but we need to learn how to manage the conflict. We need to learn how to communicate and talk about things so that there's a resolution.
So in this day, each is meeting the other person's needs, but you're still meeting each other's needs. The difference is that one or both is causing unhappiness to the other. In intimacy, you're avoiding it. In conflict, you're not avoiding it anymore. And if you let it go long enough, you will get to the third state of mind in marriage, and that is withdrawal, which is a state of mind dominated by your taker, who encourages you to emotionally withdraw from your spouse, neither giving nor taking. So you've come to the point where you basically say, I don't necessarily want to leave this relationship, but I'm not happy in leaving. Or let's stay together for the sake of the kids. Or let's stay together because financially we're better off doing it. But there's no positive relationship here at all.
In fact, there's another word we use sometimes. Another word we use for withdrawal is stonewalling. And it's exactly what the term implies. We put up a wall between each other. I'm going to live my life, you live your life. Here's a misconception. So many couples come to us and say, but isn't this better? We're not fighting anymore. You know, life is so much more peaceful at home. It's not a conflict. We've moved from conflict to withdrawal. No, it's not better. Because you know why you're not fighting anymore? You're not even talking anymore at this point. Of course you're not fighting. There's no communication. We're just going to pretend it doesn't exist. We're just going to pretend the problem isn't there. No communication. I live my life. You live your life. You are only one step away from complete dissolving of this family if you're in withdrawal. So we need to break down this misconception, and we need to go back and solve the problems before they're going to get better.
In conflict, the strategy is fight. But in withdrawal, the strategy is flight. Let me get out of here, even if I still live here. Here's an example of that. I saw this comic strip a long time ago, and I've been using it since to illustrate what happens when you get to that point. I'm leaving you, Gilbert. You can keep the bowl, but I'm taking the water and all the college stuff. So I asked the question, which of the two will survive? Which of the two will survive? Neither. When we get to that point, we're not just hurting the other person, we're hurting ourselves. In a graphic way, you have a diagram that looks like that on your page, so you have the three states like that: intimacy, conflict, and withdrawal. And usually, couples move from intimacy to conflict and from conflict to withdrawal. As a marriage and family therapist, people don't come to me when they are in intimacy. I've never had a couple that says, Pastor, we are so happy, we just can't stand being so happy. Can you help us be even happier? No, they usually come to me when they're either in conflict or more than likely when they're already in withdrawal. They come to me and say, we've tried everything, but now we've come to you as a last resort. Remember, we had a couples retreat kind of like this in some other part of the country, and some lady came to me and she said, I need your help. I've been married to this guy for 42 years. 42 years. Of course, when she said that, I said, hey man, that's wonderful, 42 years. You know how many people don't make it that long? No, I know, but I can't stand it any longer. Can you help me? I said, so you have worked on your problems for 42 years, and in 5 minutes I'm going to resolve them all. Do you think I can do that? So they come to the place where they said, we've had it. But again, some of them will say, let's stay in the marriage. So when they come to me, I said, well, we need to get back to intimacy. The problem is in trying to get back to intimacy, you may have to go through a period of time. You don't just simply jump back from withdrawal to intimacy. And so couples will say, wait a minute, we're not fighting now. Why would we want to go into conflict? Because it's a necessary step back to intimacy. That's how you learn to work on your conflict. You can't just ignore it as if it never happened. So remember Harley said this, you may intelligently decide, notice that word, love, we say, carry love, we say decision. So you may intelligently decide. By the way, how many intelligent people are there in this room? Please raise your hand. There's one. Oh, there's 3, 5, 6, okay. The rest of you, I don't know, maybe you didn't understand the question. You may intelligently decide to make a new effort to restore intimacy and toss out another branch. Your effort goes against the advice of the taker, but you decide, second time, you decide correctly that your taker is leading you astray. Your taker is saying, don't do that. Remember, you should make yourself happy. They should make you happy. But you intelligently decide to not listen to the taker. This effort might well take you through conflict, which is a necessary step back to intimacy. So what we're saying is continue to make the decision, the intelligent decision, to listen to your giver and ignore the voice of your taker. Do what makes the other person happy. Because by doing that, you might just receive the same in return. And even if not, you're doing what is right. One more concept, the love bank. What it hardly says that we all have an emotional bank. And in that bank, every person that we know has an account. Pam opened her account in my bank back in 1978. That's when we first met. I tell you, that had to be of God. Because I'm by nature a fairly shy person, an introvert. And when I walked into the college bookstore there at CUC, that May of 1978, on Monday.
Wow, I'm impressed.
At 10 in the morning.
Wow. Keep going.
I saw her there from the distance. She had just graduated from Shenandoah Valley Academy and came to CUC. I had started a semester earlier, so I knew the student body at CUC. So when I walked into the bookstore and saw her there in the corner, lonesome, sad, pitiful girl,
Okay, you just ruined it.
I walked up to her and I said, hey, you're new here, aren't you? And she says, yes, my first day. And I had to come up with a pickup line pretty quick, so I said, would you like me to show you around Washington, D.C.? And just like that, she fell madly in love with me.
You know, he starts out well, but somehow the story deteriorates as he tells it. But so I will tell you one part of the truth of the story.
It's my story, it's his story.
Yeah, his story is always tainted. It's fake news.
Oh, no.
I grew up in the Appalachian Mountains of Virginia. And when I left home, I still remember the day I left home to come to CUC. And I'm sorry, but it will always be CUC for us. It's very hard for me to say Washington Adventist University because my diploma says CUC. But when I left home from my Virginia mountains that day to go to CUC, my Southern mama had a talk with me. And if any of you are from the South, you know Southern moms. And my Southern mama had one request. And it had nothing to do with, I want you to study hard and get a good education. No, that's not what Southern mamas want. The priority for my Southern mama was, when you get to CUC, I want you to find a good Southern boy to marry. That was her thing. You know, I had to marry a good Southern boy. So here I am. My mama and my daddy had just left. And I'm at CUC. And who do I meet? I mean, literally within minutes of my mom and daddy leaving, I kid you not.
I rescued her.
So Mama called that night. I said, guess what, Mama? I already met someone, and he already asked me out for a date. Well, you know Mama's question. Is he from the South, Pam? And so I thought a minute, and I said, Mama, he's from way down south. And Mama said, where's he from? And I said, Columbia. You know what Mama thought? He's a Carolina boy. So my mama was happy because I had a Southern boy. So I introduced you to my Southern boy.
So she opened that account in my love bank that Monday morning, May 1978, and I'm guessing I opened the account at the same time as her love bank. And the more deposits that we made in each other's bank, the more we fell in love is the way that the expression that we use, the more that we cared about each other until 3 years later when I said, would you marry me? She said yes. So the key here is that good experiences deposit love units leading us to like or even love a person. The more nice things you do for the other person, the more deposits that you make, the more that they like you, eventually the more that they will love you. That's a simple principle. You do nice things, it's a deposit. The opposite is also true. Bad experiences withdraw love units, leading us to dislike or hate a person. The more things that you do that are unkind, unloving, it's like making withdrawals out of the account. Let me paint a different image. If I had a plastic cup, picture a plastic cup here in my hand, and I want to fill up this cup with water. But the cup has a little hole at the bottom. So the more water I put in, the more water that goes out. What do I have to do to make sure the water stays in the cup? Plug the hole. That's as easy. And that's why I said imagine this cup. Because one day I made the mistake of saying, why do I need to keep the water in the cup? And they said, get another cup. No, that's what people do today. If my wife doesn't meet my needs, I'm just going finding another wife. If my husband doesn't meet my needs, I'm just going to meet another husband and he'll meet my needs. So I said, this cup, this spouse, what I need to do is to eliminate the withdrawals from our relationship so that when I make deposits, the account will go up. So we're going to begin talking about how to stop the withdrawals first before we talk about making the deposits. Because we can talk about making deposits, but as long as you're continuing to make withdrawals, the water is not going to stay. So we'll start by talking about the withdrawals, and that's what Willard Harley refers to as love busters. And you might be wondering, why do we keep referring to Willard Harley? Well, somewhere around the 10th year into our marriage, Pam and I went through a little rocky time. We made a commitment when we were married that we would not consider divorce. We followed the philosophy of Billy and Ruth Graham. You know Billy Graham, the evangelist from North Carolina, from Charlotte? One time, someone asked Ruth Graham, have you and Billy ever considered divorce? And she said, we have never considered divorce. Murder, yes, never did. We've never considered divorce. We have made that commitment that we would not consider divorce as an option. But as I said, on our about 10th year, we were going through a very difficult time. And somehow we attended, I think, a couples retreat kind of like this, and we were introduced to the writings of Willard Harley, and that completely changed our relationship, which is the reason we continue to use his materials, and they have changed. Not ideas, not our ideas, his ideas have changed many relationships, many couples that we have worked with. So he calls that the withdrawals, the negative things that we do for each other, love busters. And he says that in general terms there are 5. Now he defines love busters this way: a repeated behavior of one spouse that makes the other spouse unhappy. Now notice what it says there: a repeated behavior, not something that happens one time and that was the end of that, but a repeated behavior that makes the other spouse unhappy. And he list this 5. Number 1, selfish demand. But here's the definition that he provides. Commanding your spouse to do things that would benefit you at your spouse's expense with an implied threat of punishment if refused. So it's a selfish demand. Either you do this for me or I won't do that for you. It's almost a threat. And some people use certain things in their relationship as sort of that weapon, that leverage to try to get what they want for themselves. And so that's what would be considered a selfish demand. Leslie Perot, well-known Christian psychologist, wrote that the real way to make progress when faced with a problem is not to dwell on it by pointing an accusing finger, but to solve it by proposing a commanding solution. So you don't force someone to do things that they don't want to do by threatening them, but rather trying to work it out together. And that is for a different presentation.
And I want to add something, if you want to go back, please, just for a minute, to selfish demand. So I want to talk to the ladies for just a minute, because many times we've heard what women will do is they will use sex in this area. They will say, if you don't do this, then you're not going to have sex. We're not going to have sex anymore. So it's whatever you use as a threat to your spouse, or you try to bargain with things, and you shouldn't try to bargain with that. So to try to hurt our spouse by demanding or commanding something or using a threat. The next one is disrespectful judgments. And look at this. We straighten out our spouse's attitude, beliefs, and behavior by trying to impose on them our way of thinking through lecture, ridicule, threats, or forceful means. Have you heard people that maybe you're sitting at a dinner table, you know what my wife did last night? And that tell this story and everyone laughs and they think it's funny. But the wife may be embarrassed. It's not funny to her. You just made fun. You just made fun of her by telling something that she did. So anything we do to our spouse that hurts their feelings, by making fun of them, by lecturing them, by saying things like, I can't believe you think that. How can you have that attitude? That is so dumb. That is so stupid. Anything like that. To disrespect their feelings, to disrespect their attitudes, or what they believe in.
Here's an example. This is one of the couples that I read regularly and collect regularly. And by the way, and you'll see that we use the comic strips a lot, and there's a reason for that. Comic strips, by the way, are not drawn for children or by children. They're drawn by adults for adults. If you read that, they make really no sense to kids. And when you read them, boy, the messages sometimes are very, very deep. So here's a couple, they're called the Lockboard, to illustrate the disrespectful judgment. Okay, Loretta, he says, I'll try it. It can't taste worse than it looks. How would you feel when you make a dinner for your spouse that they say that's the best they can say about what they think? So again, it's a very subtle message that kids won't ever get. The third of the low postures, according to Willard Harvey, is what he calls angry outbursts, and he defines it as deliberately attempting to hurt your spouse using anger, usually in the form of verbal or physical attack. And one of those words that are important in this definition is deliberately. I know some people would say, well, I didn't mean it. And maybe sometimes you don't, but it's that deliberate attack. I am going to do this to hurt my spouse. And of course, every so often we will hear someone that will say, I can't control myself. I can't help myself. It's interesting because when you're in the middle of the fight, if you want to say it that way, and the phone rings and it happens to be your pastor, the elder of the church, maybe your mother. Oh, hi, Pastor Joanne. Yeah. So you can't change. You can't control it. You may not choose to do so. You may not want to do it, but you can. So when people say, I just simply can't do it, no, you can't, I can guarantee that.
And you can see this, in fact, you see it all the time even in Walmart or in shopping malls. You see couples yelling at each other in public, and sometimes I think, wow, if they're speaking like that in public, what happens when they get home and close the doors?
We were in the neighbor's town at the Chesapeake Camp meeting one day, we were driving there, remember that couple there next to us, in the car next to us, and they were yelling at each other so loud, we had the windows up, because as you know, it's the summer months, the windows up, the air conditioner on, they had their windows up, and yet we could hear them. That's how loud they were shouting.
And
They were
notice,
not happening, by the way, I'm just saying that it happened then.
and notice, this could be verbal, it could be physical, it could be emotional abuse. There are many different types of abuse, and we don't have time today to talk about all of those, but if you're interested, we have some videos we've done on our website, and I'll be ended now. We've got some presentations that have been recorded we did, but angry outbursts can take many different forms in marriage, and definitely that's not the way that God wants us to speak to each other. The next one, look what the Bible says. Do not hasten in your spirit to be angry, for anger rests in the bosoms of fools. And that's from the book of Ecclesiastes. And what about this one? Don't sin by letting anger control you. Think about it overnight and remain silent.
We chose this version of the Bible, the New Living Translation. You might recognize the words in the New King James, which says, be angry, but do not sin. And you find that in the book of Ephesians. Well, we chose Psalm 4, verse 4, because in Ephesians it says, do not let the sun go down in your anger. Remember those words? Well, what happens if the conflict happens after sundown? You see, people sometimes will stay up and argue all night because the Bible says do not let the sun go down in your anger. And what research shows is that it may be actually better to take a good night's rest, to take a good break, and then maybe next day try to resolve it, which is what Psalm 4:4 says. Don't sin by letting anger control you. Think about it overnight and remain silent. So research once again proves what the Bible says. I believe in research strongly. I'm a psychologist, I'm a pastor, and I believe in what psychology has to offer. But in fact, in the book, My Character and Personality, the first volume, the first page of the first chapter, Ellen White says that the true principles of psychology are found in the Scriptures. So I look at psychology and find that, hey, Daniel said that a long time ago, or David said that a long time ago, and this is one of those times. So take a break. When you're upset, take a little break. Don't leave it open. We'll talk about it eventually, but rather, hey, let's take a break tonight, and tomorrow night or tomorrow morning, let's sit down calmly and deal with it. So that's one of the things that you can do to deal with anger.
I like number 4. It's one that
let me fix you.
okay. Turn me on.
Oh, I can do that. Problem is that I turn you off.
He's so bad.
Yeah, you might have to turn my wife on.
I'll just use this one for now. Well, Eli's working on that. Thank you.
Yeah, if it was that easy to turn her on and off.
Testing. Testing. Okay. And I'll just put it back there. I like this one because this is the one that we most often laugh about. Annoying behaviors, habits, and activities that unintentionally. You know, I don't mean to do it. It's just the way I've always done it. When I was a child, you know, I always betted on. I'm going on. When I was a child, I always threw my clothes on the floor. So now that I'm married, well, I throw my clothes on the floor now, and my wife will pick them up, right? Yeah.
Listen, okay.
All right. We have it put back. I'm not having luck with that one. So habits and activities that I bring into the marriage that I did when I was growing up. Little things, like the way you eat. I always eat like this, but it annoys your spouse. It just grates on their nerves. We've actually had couples sit before us, and their biggest argument was the way the spouse chewed their food. You know, they didn't like that she chews with her mouth open all the time. Or Pastor, she doesn't cut up her food the way she should with her knife. I mean, it's the little things sometimes that we laugh about that become big things in marriage. It's not always the big things that cause a breakup of a family. Sometimes it's the accumulation of these small things that just grate on your nerves, that are annoying. And yes, they annoyed you when you were dating, but somehow in the back of your mind you thought, it will change. He will change after we're married. You know, then he won't do that so much. I'll fix it after we're married. But guess what? Things didn't change after you're married, and they grate on your nerves even more today. Little things like, here's another example. Leaving hair in the bathroom shower or in the tub.
I don't do that. I've never had
No. Honey, you never do that.
I've never do that.
Thank you, honey.
Very careful about things like that. But here's someone that when we talk about this, immediately I get all kinds of ideas of things that happen. So here's one that evidently happens in a lot of homes. This is my bed space. Hopefully those of you there on the edge, you can see it. If not, we'll take the picture to you. Here's her pillow. Apparently also her pillow. This is the space where she's supposed to sleep, and the space where he's supposed to sleep, and then there's the peacekeeping zone in between. But in reality, this is where she sleeps, way into this space, which means he only gets about 2 inches of bed there at the edge. And this, of course, is uncharted territory, because she never sleeps there anyway. And if you don't think that's true, someone actually recorded a couple sleeping in bed and how each one turns in bed, and it's so different. How men turn in bed and how women turn in bed.
Not that that's us, right?
No. I was a pastor in a different part of the world. One couple called me and said, "Pastor, needs your help." And when I got to see them, I could see in both their faces that they were very upset. Of course, you know, you have all kinds of things, all kinds of thoughts crossing your mind. You don't know what the deal is. And she says to me, "Pastor, we have a problem that we can't resolve. And you're going to have to help us, because we're at the point where we are ready to separate unless you tell us what we need to do." Should the toilet paper roll over or under? I am not kidding.
That is a true story, my
It's a
friends.
true story.
Yes.
They were fighting over that. Whenever he had to change the toilet paper, he would change it to roll over. When she changed it, she would turn it, put it to roll under. And of course, the other person would come and then they'd switch it and they have arguments over that all the time. So I would love now, this is some 25 years ago or 20 years ago, I would love to show them some pictures now to illustrate the kinds of things that they could do instead, like this. And two of them. You know, of course, this is an interesting one. I told my roommate he was putting the toilet paper on backwards, and then I find this. Now that's just downright hateful. Because someone said to you this, what your toilet paper says about you. Think about it. If you like the toilet paper to roll over, that means that you are faithful, logical, and sensible. A traditionalist who takes special joy in keeping his or her environment well regulated. But if you're the type of person that likes for the toilet paper to roll under, that means that you are carefree, enthusiastic, and spontaneous. A heedless fool with astute perception of reality. Of course, there are some of you who are a little bit daring and put the toilet paper on top of the empty roll of paper. And what that means is that you are reckless, incorrigible, and lazy, most likely a male with the attention span of a goldfish. And then there's that. That means I hate you.
But just in case you're interested, if any of you ever have a couple that's arguing about this, there really is a correct way to do it. Because I went back, I'm a researcher, I love research, and I researched the original patent for toilet paper when it was first invented. Toilet paper was made to roll over, my friends. And so just in case you wondered, in fact, you would not believe how many airports around this world that I have gone in and I had to change the toilet paper I made it roll over. Because I am a type A person and it does drive me crazy if the toilet paper does not roll over. So just in case you're wondering, there's no need to argue. Just look back at the original patent. Make it roll over.
Another type who just wants to have toilet paper. I found this very interesting, and I hope you notice the reason why. Here it says, changing the toilet paper will not cause brain damage. But I want you to notice where this picture was taken. Up at the top says Adventist Review, and someone wrote, yes, but why take the chance? That's what it was. And the whole issue of habits, bad habits, repeated habits, apparently began way back in the Garden of Eden when Eve said to Adam, will you please pick up all your clothes? Usually the leaves.
There is another annoying behavior that some couples argue about that talk to us, and it's how to squeeze the toothpaste. Many couples argue over that. In fact, when we first started traveling, we had that issue. I will admit that. Because
there's only one way of doing it. You know, you take the toothpaste and you roll the tube little by little until you get to the very end so you can use every bit of that. And when you get to the end, you squeeze it sideways, then get a pair of pliers and squeeze it until it's going through. That's the way to do it.
Now that is an annoying habit. But you think he's kidding? I kid you not, this is a true story. We were home the other day, and my husband walked out of the bathroom. He literally had a pair of pliers on the toothpaste tube, squeezing it. And I'm like, honey, get a new tube.
I did after that.
Throw the tube away. It's time for a new one. So, in order to avoid the plier trick, I have my own tube of toothpaste when we travel, and I'm like, step away from my toothpaste. Step away. Don't touch it. Don't even look at me be brushing my teeth, because I will get a new tube of toothpaste.
What a ways, you leave half of it in.
I'm not gonna do the plier trick, honey, I'm sorry.
I was so proud of myself for doing that, and in another college retreat, this guy during the break came and said, you know what I do? I take the deodorant and save several of them, the last piece, they melt them together, and they have a new one when I take it. So, oh, yeah,
That's a true story too, but those can be very annoying habits to the spouse. Unless you figure out a way. Another annoying habit that we deal with, because we travel all the time. In a given year, we're in a hotel anywhere from 230 to 250 nights out of the year. And so we travel all the time. And so for us, an issue becomes how we pack our suitcases. So when we first started this job, my husband was like, we don't need to take 2 suitcases, Pam. We can fit everything in one big suitcase. I'm like, okay. But then he started getting judgy on me. Ladies, you will understand this. Judgy. No, it's no opinion, it's judgy. He would get judgy. He was like, Pam, why do you need to take 3 pairs of shoes for one weekend event?
It's more like 7 pairs of shoes.
Okay, I mean, that was conservative if I took 3. That was conservative. So he would get judgy on what I packed. So then it was like, no. There really are some very simple ways to solve annoying behaviors. And it's just, I'm taking my own suitcase from now on. You'll still have to carry it, it's okay.
I tell you, my chiropractor will buy a new boat the way you have to go in all the time.
Well, the good news is I put in my suitcase what I want, I zip it up, and you don't know what's in there. But he does. Every time we check in at the airport, we always check in at the Delta counter, so we check in, and you know how they weigh your suitcase? We know all the people now that work the airlines. So it's a lady's named Kathy. So he'll say, Kathy, make another note today. Her suitcase is 2 pounds heavier than mine again.
I have 4 pairs of shoes, I don't care. Although I know it's just because I don't carry all that air products.
That's why, that's the reason.
Here's one that we hear very often. Honey, do you have anything to say before football season starts? And so we hear about the football widows who never see their husband once the football season begins. Although, for those of you who are Eagle fans, why would you? They never won anyway. All right. And the last one of the 5 emotional, or rather love busters that Willard Harney talks about is
Dishonesty. And actually, out of all the 5 we talked about, this one can be one of the most destructive to marriages. Because your marriage needs to be built on the foundation of trust. I need to know that I can trust my husband in all areas of his life. One of the biggest things that we're finding in today's marriages that Satan is using in this area is how we utilize technology. If I think about my grandparents and my great-grandparents, if they were to be dishonest to each other or have inappropriate relationships, they would have to leave home to do it, right? In today's world, in 2017, we are having so many couples having inappropriate relationships without ever leaving their home. Because inappropriate relationships are as close as your phone is to you, as close as your computer, as close as your iPad is to you, is an inappropriate relationship. And also in today's world, you don't necessarily have to go looking for it. It will find you. With all of the filters and all of the security that our office even has on our technology, we still get inappropriate content in our email. Pornography will find you. And there's so many homes today that are being destroyed by inappropriate images, by having by entering chat rooms and having inappropriate conversations. So when it comes to dishonesty, we need to take a good look in the mirror. And it's not just about who we're going to see, but it's about the images we're looking at in media, the text messages we're sending, the ones we're receiving, the messaging we're doing on Facebook, chat lines we're entering into, and even in some of the gaming things that we have today. And if you're a parent today, you need to be so careful, because some of these very innocent looking games that we're giving our children have back doors built in them, where predators can come in and are communicating with our children, and we think they're playing just an innocent game. So we need to, once again, be very careful and ask ourselves the question, am I looking at any picture online, even one that I would not want my spouse standing over my shoulder and looking at with me? Are there any text messages that I'm receiving that I'm quick to delete because I don't want to trace? Am I erasing the history on my computer of sites that I'm visiting, with things that I'm looking at? So let's be very honest with this. We always tell our couples, one of the greatest blessings in today's world is technology, because we are finding that we can reach people and touch lives in ways that we were never able to do before, and our gospel message is literally spreading around the world, and some of our posts that we do are going viral because of technology. But in the same way, whatever God uses for good, Satan will turn around and use it against us. And he's doing this in our homes with technology. So let's make sure today that we really are taking a look at this whole area of technology when it comes to dishonesty.
The definition of private gifts of dishonesty is failure to reveal to your spouse correct information about your emotional reactions, personal history, daily activities, and plans for the future. And so he suggests, let me share this first. A false witness will not go unpunished, and he who speaks lies will not escape. Here's a very interesting comic strip that I found. I hope you see how profound this really is. It says, "There's no such thing as the book of life. We make our decisions based on your browser history." That's profound right there. So Harvey suggests that we should be honest, in fact, in what he calls the policy of radical honesty, and by that he means that we should have emotional honesty. Express your feelings to each other. We men tend to have a shortened vocabulary, especially when it comes to emotions. And so we may need to cultivate that. Express your emotions. Here's an example. You always complain that I don't know how to show my emotions, so I made you signs. Well, don't use emoticons, but why don't you use words instead? So emotional honesty, yes. Secondly, historical honesty, that there should be nothing in our past that our spouse doesn't know about. I know couples before they get married, for instance, we had a situation with a young lady who had been sexually abused by her father, and she did not want to tell her boyfriend. Her fiance said that because she said, he may not want to marry me once he finds out. And what I said was, any secrets that you keep you from enjoying that true intimacy, because you're always guarded. Now, you may have to go through some therapy to help you through that. You may have to work together through that issue, but better to have no secrets whatsoever. Have everything completely in the open. Also, current honesty. Where are you going? Who are you talking to? Where? Everything. You shouldn't say, I'm going to see John, when in reality you're going to see Mike, or whatever the names may be. You shouldn't say, I'm working late at home, when in reality you're going out with some friends to bowling. Or it may be an innocent event, but why keep it from your spouse instead of just simply saying, this is what I'm doing? One of the things that we do, both of us have the same passwords on everything, the cell phone, the computer, so we both have access to everything anytime. She can check my email, my cell phone, my iPad, everything, because there's nothing to hide there. And also, future honesty. What do you plan to do in the future? What are your goals for the future? I had a friend of mine who said, when I retire, I'm going to move to Florida. And I knew his wife did not like Florida. I said, well, why did she say so? I haven't told her yet. Well, what are you going to tell her? When you find a house in Miami or wherever you're going to live? Why not talk about those things in the future? You know, one day I want to do this. I want to retire there. I want to travel there. Why not talk about those things instead of keeping them to yourself? So now this is what we would encourage you to do. We would do this on Friday nights at our regular retreats. Obviously, we won't be doing that tonight, on Friday night. But sometime tonight, in the privacy of your home or tomorrow night, whenever you wish to do it, we invite you to identify and overcome the love busters in your relationship. How do you identify your love busters? Well, look at that list and see which one impacts you the most. Which one hurts you the most? Which one bothers you the most when your spouse does that? Put that at the top. That's how you rank these little busters in terms of impact. First the one that bothers you or hurts you the most, and then the next one until you have completed the list. Then, because you are intelligent, I think those of you who raise your hand to tell me that you're intelligent, you agree to eliminate the little busters for each other, and take the steps to overcoming the love busters. In case you forgot what they are: selfish demands, disrespectful judgments, angry outbursts, annoying behavior, and dishonesty. So that'll be the first part of your homework for tonight or for whenever you go back home. Now we're going to take about a 15-minute break. In the meantime, I think Dr. Rojas, you gave them a piece of paper? Okay, so you have a little piece of paper. If you have any questions, we would like you to write down your questions, and maybe we'll ask you to, is there a box or someplace? But yeah, maybe you can put that on the table by the projector sometime. If there are several, shuffle them so nobody will see you. That's really matter. And then through the day, we'll try to answer the questions that you have.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay. It works. It works.
Steve, okay, here we go. Sorry about that. All right, so we have, right, through this doors, or, well, any of the doors, the restrooms are right there. There's a nice patio out there where you can have for a couple minutes or a lobby area. And just come back, Doctor, you said in 15 minutes? 15 minutes, so back to come before that. Enjoy it. Thank you.
See you too.